I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
Well, some time ago, I was living in St. Louis, as you know, before I moved here. And I decided one day to rearrange the furniture in my apartment, and by myself. And so I thought, I can do this. I had this couch in my bedroom that I was kind of tired of it being in the bedroom. So I thought, I got to move this couch out into the living room. So I picked up this couch and I'm pulling it and I'm struggling with it, and it was 15 or 16 years ago. So I'm thinking, I'm young enough, I'm strong enough, I can move this couch, right? Well, I dragged it down the hallway, and I'm trying to get it in the bedroom, and I'm turning it, and it's like I kind of turned it into this angle, and it's stuck, right, in kind of a sacred angle in the doorway, right? And I'm like, I'm like praying, begging for God, God, give me the strength that I know I have to get this couch in the bedroom, and it's like, it's not going anywhere. Right? And I swear it's laughing at me, right? And it's like filling up the entire doorway, right? I could not get out of the bedroom, right? And there is no other way out. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do, right? And I'm like, trying to be nice, not trying to cuss. I got neighbors and whatnot, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die here. Right? Nobody knows I'm here. Nobody knows what I'm doing. Evidently, nobody cares. Right? And I'm like praying to this massive couch in my doorway. Right? and I see my neighbor walk by. Right? That lives next door to me. And she walks by and she does one of those double takes. Like, what? Right? And she comes back and she sees me in the bedroom with this couch in the doorway. And she walks into my apartment and she says, Blaine, are you okay? And I'm like, I can't get out of my bedroom. I can't get this big, I'm trying to think of a nice adjective to use, but I can't think of one. This beautiful couch in my bedroom. And she goes, it's no problem. Let me see. And she puts two fingers on it, and all of a sudden it moves, and we move it in my bedroom. And it's like, oh my God. I'm like, two fingers she put on it, right? And she says, you just could have asked. The truth is, the couch wasn't the problem. My refusal to ask for help was the problem. We're kind of taught that we need to do everything on our own, right? We need to be independent. We need to figure it out on our own. But the truth is that we need to find the courage to ask for help, and that's the title of the talk today. And the truth is, we are wired for connection. Did you ever notice? Right? We're not wired to do it alone. Our brains, our hearts, our spirits function best in community. Right? Asking for help isn't a weakness, it's a strength. We get this myth in our humanity, in our society, that we have to carry the weight of life by ourselves, right? We have to pull up our bootstraps and right, and which, by the way, is impossible, right? If we pull up our bootstraps, it doesn't actually. I don't even know. Actually, what is a bootstrap? My parents used to say that. Come on, Blaine, just pull up your bootstraps and get in there and do it. And I'm like, well, especially here, what do we have? We have toenail straps. I don't know. And if even if we have what? Flip-flop straps. Yeah, if we pull up the straps on our flip-flops, is that actually going to help us stand up? Right? It's impossible. And I imagine pulling up our bootstraps is also impossible. But we're taught, don't bother other people. Be independent. You heard the quote, God helps those who help themselves. Okay, where's it come from?
It's sort of a
It's a miss what? Is it out of the Bible?
yeah, but it's miss whatever.
Construed?
Yeah, right.
It's okay. Actually, it was Benjamin Franklin who said that God helps those who help themselves. And I love that because that's so much a part of our principles, right? Is that, and God isn't some man out there on a cloud. God is what? Everything. God is all of us, right? God isn't a he. God isn't a she. Even though if it was, we'd have a whole different world. Right? God is the essence of love and life that's everywhere in the universe. And so what we can do is call upon that presence and that power to help us with the challenges that we have in life. So we tend to think that independence equals maturity, right? We tend to think that needing help is a weakness. And the truth of it is, it's not weakness, right? If we work in isolation, we end up being like me and getting all burnt out when we try to do everything ourselves instead of reaching out and asking for help from our community. Science is finding that we are wired for connection, right? That we have mirror neurons in our brain that fire when we ask for help, right? When we help other people, these neurons in our brain fire that create this connection with each other, that remind us that we're all one. Right? The truth is we are all one in spirit. We feel like we're separate, but I like to believe that we are really one essence, one power, one presence, that we are all connected in the universe. And boy, do we have some work to do in believing that. And I think especially right now, and this time in our country and this time in the world, we need to really remember that. Right? Because there are parts of us that are hurting. There are parts of us that are trying to take control. There are parts of us that are trying to take our power away from us. And what we get to do right now is to be the presence of love in the world. And to stand up for what we believe is right. And I don't want to make this a political speech, but it's just like, our systems regulate with each other, right? We affect each other based on our consciousness, right? You ever been around that person when they walk in the room, the energy changes, right? And all of a sudden there's peace. All of a sudden there's love. All of a sudden we can breathe. And I really believe now is the time we need to be that presence in the world. And to not buy into the fear, not buy into the hate, not buy into the prejudice, but really be that essence in the world. I think that's what those of us who are attracted to this spiritual path, this philosophy, don't you know that? Don't you know that in your heart? That that's really why we're here. Right? We are wired for connection. And when we ask others for help, we're inviting them into that connection. The polyvagal theory is about this co-regulation, that we are one system, right? And our thinking, our consciousness affects everyone around us. right? And our bodies, our brains, our minds, our spirit act better in community because we have access to this community energy, to the individual spirit and presence that each one of us is stronger when we're connected. You've heard the expression, where two or more are gathered, what? There I am. Or what is that I am? Some people think that it was Jesus, right? But it's the divine. Where two or more are gathered, that's where the divine is, right? And why is that? It's because we are there to see it in each other. And when we see it in the other person, it reminds us, it reminds them of that truth. Right? Human beings have survived through cooperation. Used to be a time when we hunted together. Used to be a time when we raised our children together. Used to be a time when we lived in community, right? And interdependence was our strategy for success. And I think the pendulum has swung so far to this isolation idea that we have to be strong by ourselves. And I'm hoping and praying that we move into more of a place where we're acting cooperatively and being that one presence and that one power, that one essence of God. And our job really is now to see that presence wherever we are, especially in those that can't see it in themselves. Guys, I don't know where all that came from. That wasn't part of my talk, but I like what Ecclesiastes 4 says. It says, two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Wow. The African tribe, the Ubuntu, have a saying, I am because we are. Wow. Right? And if we look at that metaphysically, we know that the I am, right? Remember when Moses spoke to the burning bush and said, who are you? And the bush said, I am that I am, right? I am the presence of God. So when we come and speak from that, I am because we are. I am the presence and the power of love because I am because we are. We don't exist in isolation. We exist in relationship. Interdependence is our natural existence. Isolation is an illusion. So, what keeps us from asking for help? I think, first of all, it's the fear of being a burden to other people, right? I don't want to impose on them. Everyone has their own problems. I don't want to bother them, right? So we don't ask for help. And the truth is, when we ask someone for help, we're connecting with them, right? We're saying to them, I recognize the love in you. And I'm going to share my love with you because I know who you are, right? You are the presence and power of God in the same way that I am. When we offer to help others, we're giving them a gift. When we ask for help from others, we're giving them a gift. We're inviting them into this connection. And the next thing that we do that keeps us from asking for help is that we feel shame about needing help, right? We feel like, my parents used to tell me that I had the power, I could be doing this on my own, right? Everybody hear that message? Society tells us, you got to do this. If you're going to be successful, you need to figure it out on your own. When the opposite is true. We are here to love and to support each other. And to ask for that help, to honor that help, to be that help, to be that presence. I love what Brene Brown says. She says, vulnerability is not a weakness, it's courage. Sometimes when we ask for help or we don't ask for help, we're feeling vulnerable, right? We're afraid to let somebody in, to show others that we have things that we can't accomplish on our own. Asking for help is saying, I'm human. Asking for help is saying the love in me, the light in me, the power in me, the spirit in me wants to call you in. Let's work together. Let's create this together. This isn't shameful. This is honest. And another reason that we don't ask for help is because we have the fear of being rejected, right? Oh, what if they say no? Or what if they think less of me because I'm asking for help? And the truth of it is, if somebody says no to you, it's not about you. Right? Oh no. Right? Maybe they don't have the capacity. Maybe it's not the right time for them. Or maybe they're setting a boundary. Oh no, they're judging. They might judge me. Well, who gives a darn? Right? Why do we care if somebody judges us? If somebody judges us, is it about us? No. We want to be accepted, but we don't need their judgment to be accepted. Right? A person who is judging, that judgment's coming from their own consciousness. It's their own lack. And actually, what's interesting is, when we judge somebody, we're basing it on our own feelings and our own experience, right? We can only see people as we know ourselves, right? Some of the people who criticize others are the people who are most critical and maybe aren't connected to themselves. Something's funny is going on with my sound. Maybe it's one of these guys.
No, where's your thing?
Put me on the red one. There we go, Al. Thank you. Oh, do I need help, right? Whew. Isn't it funny how spirit works sometimes? It's like, you need an example in your talk? Oh, I got one for you. Right? If you're doing something in your life and you're judging others, you know what happens when you judge others? It turns around. How does it turn around? As soon as we judge somebody else, we are judged. We are judged for our judgment, right? And it's interesting because judging anybody really help them? Doesn't really help us, right? Do we feel any more connected to the light and the love within ourselves when we're judging? Right? Judge not, lest thee be judged. Right? That's fun. That's a whole nother talk. All right, where was I? All right. Yeah. So when somebody judges you, it's telling more about them than it is about you. So another reason that we don't like to ask for help is that we fear that we're losing control. Oh yeah, it was. Someone said control that we never had, right? So funny. We have such a desire to be in control, don't we? And to try and control ourselves, try and control others, try and, get God to move the couch. Wow. Perfectionism says, I can do it myself. I can do it my way, right? Asking for help gets someone else, gets more of spirit involved to help us with the challenges that we have. The truth of it is, the bottom line is asking for help is a spiritual practice. It's an act of humility, of humanity. It's not self-depreciation. It's really showing that we need others to help us because we are all one. So asking for help is also an act of trust. It's believing that the universe, that spirit, that God, that our community will support us. What a concept, huh? Imagine if we lived in a community that supported us. I think that we have one here, right? I think everyone in this room is part of this community because they bring something unique. They bring something valuable. They bring something priceless. They bring love and truth and essence and power. We don't have to knuckle through life, right? We can ask for help, and asking for help has a mutual benefit. Asking for help helps us, and it also gives someone else the opportunity to help us, to be in connection with us. Someone that you help today may help you tomorrow. And asking for help, this is the one I like the most, is really an expression of oneness consciousness. It's saying, you know what, I recognize in you the presence of love. I recognize in you the truth, the light, the love, the wisdom. I recognize that we are connected. I recognize that I can't do this all myself. I certainly can't do this all myself. I guess I could take an egg carton and go stand on the corner down in Wailuku. But it's a lot more fun to have people adjusting my mics for me and broadcasting on Facebook and doing the sound and, smiling or looking at me with disgust if you don't like my jokes. But again, that's about you. Just kidding, of course. And I do that. I like to say I never do anything but tell the truth up here. And mostly that's true. So I like what the Buddha said. The Buddha did not teach solo enlightenment. He taught the 3 jewels. Now, Raman and I are offering a lot of quizzes today. And so you might want to go home and study the 5 basic principles. But so let's go down the Buddhism path. Does anybody know what the 3 jewels are? Woo! All right. Give that man a cigar. That is absolutely right. It's the Buddha. It's the Buddha represents what? The consciousness, the truth. It represents spiritual consciousness in the same way we think of Jesus representing Christ consciousness. Buddha represents that same all-embracing, all-embodying consciousness. And the second one was the Dharma. What is the Dharma? Dharma is the truth, right? So that's the second jewel, is the truth. And the Sangha is what? It's what we are. It's the community. And it's those that practice the truth, right? And I think that's why we show up, why we're here, because we want to intellectually, spiritually understand the truth, and we also want to experience it and be it in the world. And Buddha emphasized that compassion in action is the truest form of devotion. In other words, we don't awaken alone, right? We need others to awaken. Isn't that the great part and the scary part and the part we don't like so much, right? Because other people give us the opportunity to practice the truth, don't they? Right? If we're living in a cave someplace, we may not have a whole lot of issues with other people or don't have as many opportunities to grow. I've noticed that it's the people in my life that I love that offer me the greatest opportunity to grow. Anybody else know that? Right? We seem to pick just the right relationship, just the right friends to give us the opportunity to grow emotionally, spiritually. So asking for help keeps us connected to this web of awakening, which we are all part of. Buddha tells a story about a monk who is sick, and the Buddha goes to him and cares for him and helps him to get well. And the Buddha said, "Whoever could care for me should care for the sick." In other words, letting yourself be a part of that compassionate presence is where the healing comes. Because love is the most beautiful and the most challenging thing we get to do, isn't it? Sometimes it's hard to love the things that are challenging us. But that's our greatest gift, isn't it? Isn't that what, I believe that's what we're here for. To be that love. To move past our own fears and stand in that place of love. Wow. So, how do we ask for help, you might say? So, there's a number of ways. First of all, we want to ask directly and honestly. You might say, I'm struggling right now. I'm having a difficult time. I need help with this couch, with my feelings, right? And it matters because this is courage in the purest form to reach out and ask somebody to help. And the second thing we can do is to ask for emotional support and not solutions. So often we as caregivers or people who want to offer love and support to someone try and give advice, right? And, as you all know, I've been going through the grieving process, and I've had a few people come to me with all kinds of advice, and I had to tell some people, all I need for you to do right now is hold me. And oftentimes, that's what we need. We don't need all the advice. I don't need to be told, oh, Blaine, just let it go. Time heals everything, right? No bullshit. It doesn't feel like that right now to me. I just need you to love me right now. That's the greatest gift. Hug me. That's the greatest gift we can often give to somebody. Many times we don't need fixing. We just need compassion, right? And other times we might need practical help.
I did ask, as part of my process, hey, could you pick me up something to eat? I don't feel like going to the store. You know, can you help me do something at church on Sunday? Can you be the platform person? It's important to ask people to do practical things for them, for us, and to ask straight out. And specific. Another way we can do, and a lot of people don't access this. I think this is probably one of the greatest teachings that Unity has, and Robin mentioned it as one of our basic principles, which is prayer meditation. Perhaps the place where I've gained the most strength is in prayer meditation. You know, and my prayer often is, all right, Spirit, this is what I'm challenged with. Give me some ideas. What can I do? And then to close my eyes and go into meditation and ask, knowing that the answer will be there. Might not be right in this moment, but it'll be, that realization will come to me, will come to you. So powerful and so simple. Wow. And the last thing is to do all this before you hit the wall, if you can. Sometimes I've noticed that it takes getting to the bottom of the barrel for me to reach out and say, I need help. Spirit, I need help, right? Adam, I need help. Robin, sing me a song. Give me a good word, or just hold my hand. Just love me, right? You know, asking for help doesn't make us less capable. It makes us more connected, more human, more whole. Let's say this together, but we'll say one line at a time, and I'll say it first. So let's say it this way. Asking for help doesn't make me less capable. Asking for help doesn't make me less capable. It makes me more connected. It makes me more connected, more human, more whole, more whole. When we ask, we don't just receive, we give. We give others a chance to live their compassion. And that's a spiritual practice in motion. So my invitation for you for this week is to notice where you're carrying something alone. And God forsake, don't have it be a couch. Right? But notice where you're challenged. Notice where you're struggling. Notice what makes you exhausted. And then ask the question, what would I change if I had help? And notice what becomes possible for you. And so let's end by with this bit of a prayer today. Divine presence, loving community, spirit of connection. We release the illusion that we must do this alone. We embrace the courage to ask, the humility to receive, and the wisdom to know we are stronger together. And we trust that help is here, in our friends, in our community. in the very fabric of existence. We remember that we are wired for connection, built for community, and held in the infinite web of life. May we have the courage to ask. May we have the grace to receive. May we know with absolute certainty that we are never alone. And so it is. And I invite you to say this affirmation with me one more time. Let's say it together. I release the belief that I must do everything alone. I am strong enough to ask for help. I invite you to close your eyes. Breathing in and breathing out. I invite you to be easy with yourself. Breathing in and breathing out. Remembering that you are one with the universe. You are connected to the allness, connected to all truth, to all love, to all wisdom, to all power. And breathe into this awareness. I will be tender with my heart. Breathing in. I will be gentle with myself. Recognizing the love and the light and the power and the wisdom of community, of friendship, of love is right here. That you are all that you desire. You have all that you need and want. And let's just rest for a moment in the silence. Breathing in, breathing out. Giving thanks for the beautiful and perfect expression of love, of spirit, of truth, of wisdom, and power that you are. Thank you, loving spirit. Thank you, Source. Thank you. Thank you. And I invite you to begin to bring your awareness back to this moment. To open your eyes when you're ready. And so it is. In that case, I invite you to stand and let's affirm the prayer for protection together, and then we'll sing the peace song. So for ourselves, for our congregation, for our planet, for the world, let's pray together the prayer for protection, which begins, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Thank you for being here. Thank you, folks out there in Facebook land. We love you.
Where I live, they're all raised